The honey that I'm holding in my hand is raw forest honey. Is it true that you cannot store honey in a plastic bottle? What happens when we store pure honey in the plastic bottle? And how do we differentiate pure honey from the pasteurized honey? Also, is it true that ants do not consume honey? Some people say that dogs have aversion towards pure honey. Is that true? So this is the cane sugar syrup which I'll be going to add. It is often said that there are three methods of testing the pure honey: water test, flame test and absorption test. And you cannot find out pure forest raw honey from these unreliable tests. Let's find out if it is true. Check out this video. So what is the difference between the regular honey that you get it in the market and the pure honey that you get it from the wild? Do you think that the honey that we consume now from the market was being consumed by the ape man? The ape man consumed the best form of honey from the wild, and that is why his immune system was best. The regular honey that you get it in the market does not contain beehive materials. A beehive not only contains honey but royal jelly, propolis, pollen, waxy substances and hive impurities, which you would only find it in pure forest raw honey. An ape man consumed all these hive materials, and this is why his immune system was so strong that he survived without any modern medication. The honey that you get it in the market is pasteurized honey. What is this pasteurized honey? A pasteurized honey is the processed honey in which all the goodness of honey is being extracted. This process of pasteurization is very similar to the process of milk pasteurization. So when the milk is pasteurized, the good fat and the butter is being extracted and sold separately. Similarly, when the honey is pasteurized, the royal jelly and the pollen is being extracted and sold separately. You may also Google and browse that royal jelly alone is sold nearly for 10,000 rupees in the market. Royal jelly is called baby's milk, reason being it is fed to baby bees for first 3 days just like mother's milk. And as the name, queen bee consumes only royal jelly throughout her life. And this is why a queen bee lives for about 4 years, whereas the other bees can only live for 4 months. The entire beehive is reproduced from queen bee just because the strength and the nutrition that she requires is obtained from royal jelly that she feeds on. And this is the reason why medical industry believes that royal jelly promotes longevity and fertility. We shall be finding out the way to identify royal jelly in the honey later in this video. For now, let's discuss about pasteurized honey and the side effects of farm honey. If you ask me, the honey that you get it in the market is not honey at all. It is honey, but it has more side effects than health benefits. So, reasons to avoid pasteurized honey are: number 1. Pasteurized honey is polluted. Pasteurized honey is generally farm honey which is produced by bee farming or apiculture. Since farming needs human care and interruption, it is more likely that these farms are located near towns and cities. The pollution around these farms affect the quality of honey. The water resources around the farm and the nectar from which the honey is obtained are all prone to pollution, and this affects the quality of honey. For example, a honey farm was set up near phosphorus producing factory in Europe, and it was observed that the honey obtained from this farm was green in color, which reflected the characteristics of the phosphorus. Reason number 2, pasteurized honey and farm honey involves investment and revenue. Bee farmers invest a sum of money on the bees they use for honey farming. So as long as the bees live, they get the benefit out of it in terms of revenue. So most of the beekeepers add antibiotics in the hives to keep the bees live for a longer time. Though it keeps the bees live for a longer time, the impact of these antibiotics have adverse effect on the health of human being. The antibiotics in the honey destroys the immunity of human body. It is often said that there are 3 methods of testing the pure honey: water test, flame test and absorption test. Let's check out how reliable these tests are, because in our opinion, they are not reliable. What I am going to do right now is I will be adulterating this honey with cane sugar. So this is the cane sugar syrup which I will be going to add. and I shall be mixing it. And now I will be mixing this honey with palm jaggery syrup. So as you can see that these two are now adulterated honey. This is raw forest honey and this is pasteurized honey. The first test that we are going to perform is the water test. The objective of this test is when the pure honey is poured into the water, the pure honey will settle down in the bottom of the bowl. If it is adulterated, then it would be mixed with water. So let us check if this really happens. Now here is the bowl of water and let us begin the test with pasteurized farm honey. So I shall be pouring this into the bowl of water, and now you see it has settled down below. We shall also try this trick with pasteurized wild honey. Well, it is not mixing and it has also settled down in the bottom of the water. We are going to perform the same test with pure forest raw honey. One is the light honey. Well, this should definitely go through the test. And the second one is Stingless bee honey. As you can see, this honey has also settled down in the bottom of the bowl. So as you can see that even Stingless bee honey has settled down at the bottom of the bowl. Also you can notice few bubbles in this honey since it is very raw. Well, now it is the turn of adulterated honey. Let's check out how would this test perform with adulterated honey. As you can see, the honey has settled down at the bottom of the water. Also with this adulterated honey. So these test is not reliable. Did you all notice that this experiment fulfilled the objective of the test? Hence, water test is not reliable at all. Let's move on to the next test of fire test. The next test that we are going to perform is the fire test. Objective of this test is when we dip the thread into honey and then burn it, if the honey is pure, it would be burnt. If the honey is adulterated, it would not be burnt. Let's perform. So this is pasteurized wild honey. Let's dip a little bit of honey in a small bowl. So we are dipping this thread into the honey. Now we have all the threads dipped into honey. Let's check out by burning the pasteurized wild honey. So this is getting burnt. So as you can see, it is getting burnt. Now we shall notice with pasteurized farm honey, which means the honey seems to be pure. Now this is pure forest raw honey, and let's check out if this also gets burnt. Now let's test light raw forest honey. This is also getting burnt. Now let's proceed with the adulterated honey. As you can see, the thread of an adulterated honey also suffice the test. Now this is adulterated honey with cane sugar. So as you can see, this thread is also getting burned. So surprisingly, all of these honey suffice the experiment. Hence, this test is also not reliable. So our final test is the paper test or absorption test. As you can see, we have the papers here. The objective of this test is when you pour a pure raw honey on the paper, if it is pure, it wouldn't get absorbed, and if it is adulterated, it would get absorbed due to the moisture content. Let us start with pasteurized wild honey. We take the honey and drop it on the sheet of paper. As you can see, it is not getting absorbed. We try this with pasteurized farm honey. Well, this also seems to be pure and not getting absorbed. We would try with pure forest raw honey. This will certainly not get absorbed. Light honey. Let's see what happens to the adulterated farm honey. Well, this is very surprising. This also did not get absorbed. Well, this is the point we wanted to prove here. All these silly tests are not reliable, and there is no way to find out pure honey and how to differentiate from pasteurized honey. These methods are not actual ways to differentiate pasteurized honey, and you cannot find out pure forest raw honey from these unreliable tests. So, is there any way to differentiate between adulterated honey, pasteurized honey and pure forest raw honey? Of course there is a way. Not by the silly experiments, but by our common sense and other senses. So, let us proceed with the common sense test number 1, the visuals. Let's pour pure forest raw honey in one glass container and pasteurized honey in another glass container and insert the ladle into it. The opacity of pure forest raw honey is higher than the pasteurized honey because it contains those hive materials. So, it is not true that the purity is through the clarity and transparency. A common misunderstanding is that when the product is clear and transparent, it seems to be pure. But it's not true. Just like the way we think brinjals that have no insects are good, but they're being grown using pesticides, organic brinjals will have insects in it. Similarly, we saw clear honey is not pure honey. Sometimes it will also have bees in it. Let's move on to our common sense test number 2, the odor. Pure forest raw honey has got sweet aroma and a slight tint of wine-like odor. The smell of unpasteurized honey is very aromatic and pleasant. To test this, open the bottled honey and place it in the closed room with no air circulation for some time. When you come back and open the door, you will find that the entire room has pleasant aroma, whereas polluted honey or pasteurized honey will have a stale smell. Common sense test number 3 is about the taste. Pure forest raw honey has a bit of fizzy taste, but not as much as that of aerated drink, and it is very mild. And this is why you could notice small bubbles coming out of the honey when we did the water test. And this is the reason you should never store honey in the plastic container. If you store it in the plastic container, the container will bulge out because of its aerated nature. Also, the properties of the plastic will be fused into the honey. Let's see what happens when we open the lid of the plastic container which has pure honey. You can see that the lid pops out with pressure. So far, we found out that none of the experimental tests were reliable. However, we could find out pure forest raw honey through our common sense tests. Just like how we proved that the experimental tests are incorrect, let's now get educated on myths about honey. Myth number 1, color. People think that honey comes in one single color. Once in a lifetime, they would have visited a forest and happened to taste the honey from one single hive. Then on, they think that honey comes in one single color. This is actually wrong. Honey comes in nearly about 300 colors depending on the season, region, nectar, and the water availability in the location of the hive. For example, honey from the lychee nectar is completely white and opaque as milk, whereas honey from neem nectar is dark black and opaque. Also, the density of honey varies according to the environment. For example, honey from desert is highly dense than the honey from the forest area. We obtain our honey from Satyamangalam forest where there are many water resources, due to which our honey has less density. Myth number 2. Some people say that dogs have aversion towards honey. This is totally incorrect. Dogs have aversion towards sugar too. Dogs don't take sugar as well. This is the false trick that some sellers use to give you a surprise. Please don't believe them. Myth number 3. People think that ants do not consume honey. This is totally incorrect too. Ants do love honey and ants do not search for sugar as people think. They actually go in search of nutrition, and this is why they also feed on the lizards and dead snakes. Many beekeepers bear witness to this as ants feed on the drop of beehive as well. Myth number 4. Some people say that when you dip a currency note into the honey and then burn, only the currency note will not be burnt but the honey. Again, it is a surprise marketing. The currency will definitely get burnt. Please save your money. Friends, we know that these things were incorrect. Nevertheless, there are some interesting facts about honey. Let's understand them. Fact number 1. Honey never spoils. In Egypt, it was a common practice to store honey in the pyramids. They believed that the pharaohs come back to life and they kept food for them. When archaeologists dug in, they found out that the honey kept in the pyramid before 3000 years ago is still edible and pure. So, honey never spoils. Even if you preserve dry fruits in the honey, they don't spoil too. Fact number 2. Azerbaijan is the country where people live the longest. The average lifespan of people there is 100 years and the women give birth till the age of 65 years. The food habits of Azerbaijan people is that they do not take sugar. The only sweetener that they take is natural honey. Fact number 3. The food survey conducted in Germany for people who lived above 100 years showed that all of them had honey in their diet. Fact number 4. Intaking of honey before your sleep resolves your snoring issues. Also, it burns the bad fat throughout your sleep. So, if you're looking to buy the pure forest raw honey, please find the links in the description below. Please do check for the discount codes in the description box. Kindly comment on the video if you have any doubts. Also, subscribe and share. We hope you liked our video today. We would be coming up with many more videos that would educate you how to find out the purity of the products. Until then, natureshadow.com from Nature Shadow. This is Radhika Dhruv signing off.